evening. How are you guys?
Hello, good evening.
Welcome to everybody to the class. Okay, um, let me explain that today we're going to divide the class into parts as always, okay? The first part of the class will be so you can continue, I mean, not the first part, sorry. The second part of the class, you will continue working with SQL Bolt. And the first part of the class, we're going to, no, sorry guys, I am I am weird right now. The first part of the class is where you can work with SQL Bolt. And the second part is that I'm going to be giving or be reading a lesson about EC2. Where this service is a new service that we're going to learn how to manage it on AWS. Um, this service allow us to create servers in, in our organization so we can deploy our backends. So this will be the second part of the class, and I created a lesson here. This is a very, this lesson that we have here, it contains 3 videos, and these 3 videos are going to explain what is the service. And at the end of the 3 videos, we have 10 questions that you need to solve. This is going to cost 5 points, okay? And additionally to this lesson, I will be reading um, and explaining a very practical part of how to deploy the instance. Then I will be installing Node.js in the instance and deploying the backend that I created yesterday. So it's a step-by-step lesson. We will continue working with the hospital tables, and the backend is going to be deployed in that instance. Does this make sense, everybody?
Yeah,
Yeah, so, well, the objectives for today are the next ones. First, continue working in SQL Vault assignment. Then we're going to learn how to launch an EC2 instance. We're going to manage the security groups of that instance. Then we're going to install Git. We're going to install Node.js, and we're going to talk about the port 80. So continue working. Let me know if you need some help in the assignment. Remember, tomorrow is the due date for the SQL Vault assignment. I would like to know how are you doing? How is your progress? For example, Joshua, what is the lesson that you are working right now?
on 15 at the moment.
15, that's excellent. And you, Jill, if you don't have access to your microphone, you can send me a message. Um, Frey, what is the lesson that you are working right now? Jill is in lesson 10. Frey, Justine, can you share me your progress? Tell me, Frey.
Yes, I'm on lesson 14.
That's excellent. And Justine?
I had actually already completed, so I'm just kind of going through it again for more understanding.
That's amazing. If you have finished it, that's excellent.
Yeah.
Okay, so this time, everybody, is for you can continue working. Then the second part of the class, I will explain the service of EC2. This will be an amazing lesson because you will understand how the internet works and how the backend works, so you can communicate with the database, maybe with a React project later. The next week's, no, tomorrow, I'm going to deploy a front end, um, and I will be communicating with the database in that front end too. So tomorrow we are going to reinforce React. Okay, so everybody, let me know if you need any support. In the meantime, Justine, if you want, you can start with the videos of this lesson. Let me show it. If you want, you can start working with these videos. Okay, and it's optional for you. If not, you can
Okay.
work later. Okay, excellent. Well, see you in 1 hour. Okay, everybody, I need your attention so we can have our lesson. Are you here?
Yep.
Uh, let's start. For today, we're going to launch an EC2 instance. We're going to understand what is an EC2 instance today, and we're going to manage some new topics here. For example, what is a security group? We're going to be talking about the port 80. We're going to learn how to install Git Node.js in our EC2 instances today. So I have some slides here prepared for you. And these are the steps that you need to follow if you want to launch an instance. First, let me access to my account. I have it here. Let me see. This was a testing server. I terminated the server. Now I'm going to create a new instance. This is, I mean, if you go to the dashboard, this is like the beginning of the project of AWS, right? So the service that you are going to look for is this one, EC2. So if you want to launch an EC2 instance, you need to access to this option that says instances. Let me add some zoom here. Here, instances. Once you access here, there is a yellow button that says launch instance. So here I'm going to click it. And there are some fields that we need to start typing inside of them. But let me explain step by step. That first, we need to provide a name to the server. Then the EC2 service have multiple servers or operating systems. For example, you can launch a virtual machine of a Mac OS, an Ubuntu virtual machine. You can launch a Windows machine too. Those are the most famous: Windows, Mac OS, Linux, and Ubuntu. Okay. Do you understand what is an operating system?
Yeah.
Yeah.
For example, the cell phones, they contain, I mean, there are two most famous operating systems. The first one is Android, and the second one is Apple. Yeah, and in computers, we have operating systems. The operating system is the one that is going to help us to communicate between the hardware and your software. So the hardware is going to run some specific task, but you're going to provide that task using the operating system. For example, if you want to enable the camera, that's part of the hardware of your computer. So how you're going to enable that? There is going to be an API in your operating system that is going to allow any other software to connect to the camera. For example, it could be a Zoom or a Google Meet. That's the operating system. So the operating system of a server is going to perform, in this case, the communication between the computer and the world. Okay, because this is going to be a server that is going to be communicating with the internet. So we're going to select Amazon Linux because this is a free tier operating system, and it's very easy to install dependencies here. You will see that it's going to be very similar to Node.js because there is a command that is called jump. It's equivalent to npm install, something like that. Okay, so okay, so this is the image that we're going to be using in our server. Then we need to select here. Previously, we select the image. We need to select the type of the instance. So the type of the instance, guys, is something very important that I want to talk about because the type that we have here, it's a T, yeah, a T type. This one. We're going to use the T2 micro because the T2 micro is part of the eligible free tier. This is providing 750 hours per month that are going to be declared free of charge. And the first 12 months if you are a new AWS account user. So this is going to provide you a one CPU, 1 GB of memory. This is the RAM memory in the server. And you can add an SSD disk between between 8 and 30 GB. So you can have an storage of that amount, and that's part of the free tier. So now the type. Let's talk about the type. The T type it's a type for general purposes, but there are several types. So let me show them. The T type is for general purpose. The M again is for general purpose. So the common case for this kind of computers is because you want to deploy a web server, or you can deploy it on a small database. It's optimized for memory and networking. So this is a great server if you want to create a web server. The web server is a server that is going to be providing content to the users using the internet. Okay, that's what the web server means. Now, there is another type of instance, and there is the compute optimized instance. These kind of computers, they have a pattern name that contains the letter C. And this kind of computer is it's going to have a high performance. If you want a web server that is going to be like a huge web server. Now you can perform some scientific modeling to here and some batch jobs. Then there is another kind of computer that is going to have an optimization in the memory. And those kind of computers, the pattern name contains the R, the X, and the Z at the beginning of the type of the instance. And they have a large memory per CPU, so it's going to provide more memory, more RAM to the server. And you can use these kind of computers if you want to run analytic software, or you want to run a memory database inside of the RAM of that computer. Now, there is another kind of computer that is optimized for the storage, and the pattern name is going to be it's going to contain the I, D, and the H. And this optimized storage is going to help you to save data. They are not going to be running queries or doing analytic uh, operations. They are going to be saving data. It's going to be, for example, a service like Dropbox, because you want to save information. You don't want to do analyze over that data, just save the data. Or for example, the cloud that we have on, um, do you remember in your operating system, if you have a Mac cell phone, this is you have something that is called iCloud, right? For example, you're just saving your pictures there. That's the kind of computer that you want, a computer that is going to help you with the storage. So that kind of computer is going to start with the letter IDH. Now, there are other computers that they contain accelerated computing. These kind of computers are very important if you want to run a machine learning project, or you want to video process something in online. Okay, so it's going to give you a lot of GPU. So for example, you might need to have several of these computers if you are running OpenAI. Okay, because ChatGPT is going to require accelerating computer. Now there is another one that is burstable performance. This is going to be a very low cost, and it's equivalent to the T in the general purpose. This kind of computer is the T, contains the T at the beginning of the name of the computer, and it's going to be a low cost CPU. And the last that I'm going to talk about in this class is the high memory. It's going to have a U in the instance type, and it's going to give you massive RAM. Now, accelerating computer and high memory, there are these kind of computers that can help you if you want to deploy um, a game online. For example, there is something that is called Free Fire. I don't know if you have listened about this game. That there are some people that are playing around with another one. It's a shooting game where you are shooting other people. This kind of computer requires accelerating computer. So and you can use this kind of projects. This kind of computers if you want to deploy a website. It's not a website. It's going to be an online game. Okay, let's continue because we have learned about the instance type. Now, it's very important that there is another configuration that we need to set up in our instance, and there is the network instance configuration. In this part, we need to enable security groups. Remember, I told you in the previous class about RDS that there is this property that is the security group. We need to enable security groups so the world can access to our computer. So in our RDS, we open the port that is called 5432. This is a port for the connections to the databases on Postgres. In this case, we're going to use a port that's going to be the 4000, because I don't know if you remember, but our project is deploying in the project in the port 4000. So we're going to enable this port if you want to enable um, the connection to the world, to the internet in this server. Okay, right now our project is running in this port. Does this make sense about this port?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so we're going to enable that security group in the class. Now there are three security groups that are very common if you want to deploy a website, and it's the SSH. This port, it's the port number 22. It's going to allow external connections to the terminal. I will explain what is that once we create the database. I mean, once we create the instance. Now, the HTTPS port is the 443, and if you have that enough configurations to redirect to that port, instead of redirecting the people to the port 4000, it could be possible that you can enable HTTPS in your server. And the port 80 is the most common port, or the only port where you are deploying to the internet information in HTML. So if you are going to be deploying HTML, this is the port that you might need to enable, because we are not going to serve to the people HTML. We're going to be serving JSON. The port could be any other port. In this case, we are choosing the port 4000. Now, this is the configuration about the storage. In the storage, you can select the minimum amount of 8 gigabytes until 30 gigabytes. Sorry, give me a second. My toddler has an accident right now. Sorry, 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 sorry. Sorry for the accident, guys. Sorry. Okay, now let's talk about the storage. The minimum amount of gigabytes in the storage that we're going to be enabling to the instance is going to be 8 gigabytes. And the maximum amount, if you want to keep it free, is 30 gigabytes. So we're going to leave it as 10, if or maybe it could be 10, 15 gigabytes. I think it's going to be enough for this part of the class. I was muted, sorry. Um, I will repeat the information about the storage. 8 gigabytes is the minimum amount that you can have in the hard drive, this instance, and the max amount is going to be 30 gigabytes if you want to keep it in part of the free tier. But if you enable that you require, for example, 1 terabyte in that computer, that is going to cost more money. Okay, so let's keep it in 10 or 15 gigabytes. That's going to be okay for this part of the class. Now, I will stop the presentation and I'm going to launch my instance in AWS. So first I need to provide a server name. In this case, I will call it my server, and I will put my username here. Now, I will select the image of Amazon Linux, okay? In this part, we're not going to set anything else here. We're going to leave it here because this is the free tier software or operating system that we have. And we're going to leave the architecture, this one. Now, these are the instance types, okay? So as you see, we have several instance types here. We have the T, remember T is for general purpose, but we can select a different, for example, the letter C and so on. Okay, and let's leave it as the T2 micro because this is part of the free tier. We're going to have 1 CPU and 1 gigabyte of memory. This is enough for our project. Remember, we are not deploying Netflix here. Don't worry about it. This is enough RAM. Now, there is an option that is called the key pair logging. We are not going to select this part because um, we are beginners. Maybe later I'm going to explain you what is this when I launch a different instance. Now, let's talk about the network settings. This part is going to create a new security group, okay? And this part is very important. You need to allow that SSH traffic. This is going to help you to connect to the terminal. So I will leave this one, and this two, I will disable this two because right now our port is the 4000. So this is the port 443, and this is the port 80. So I will not enable this communication in my computer. It could be a risky communication if you enable it. So let's configure the storage. I'm gonna set up that the storage is gonna be 10 gigabytes. This is enough storage for this project. And the general purpose type that we're going to select is the cheapest one, is the GP2. GP2 and GP3, they're very similar, but this is like more faster than this one. So we're going to select the GP2. It's um, it's not so fast as the GP3, but it's cheaper. So let's select the GP2. Now, this is the only thing that we need to set up if you want to create the instance. Okay, so let me launch my instance right now, and I'm going to proceed without the key pair. This is going to be an advanced lesson about the key pair. Right now, I'm going to launch the instance this way. Now, you will see here in the details or the launch log that everything has been successful. So if we return to the instance dashboard, let's refresh it. And you will see that this is a server that I'm created right now. I have already created this one. As you see, the name of the server is my server and my username. So we need to do a waiting time. So this is going to be running. As you see right now, it's color green. Now the server is online. You see it? The
Yeah.
status is online. It's running. So if you want to connect to the server, you need to enter to the instance ID. So we're going to click here. And there is this button that says connect. This is going to enable the communication to the terminal using our browser. So we are going to connect. We're going to, let me explain previously something else. Let me enter again to the instance. When you create a server in the internet, an IP is reserved for you, and this is a public IP. So your server, I mean, in this case, in my server, has a public IP, and it is this one. Okay, 18 2008. I mean 208, 142, 244. This is my IP address. This is the unique address, so you can connect to my server. Okay, so every instance is going to have an IP, and we have two IPs. We have the public IP and the private IP, and this is the private one. This is for the networking side of AWS, and this is for the network outside of AWS. Right now, if you open this address, you will see that nothing is going to happen. Nothing is going to be deployed here because my server does not have communication with the port 80. The port 80 is the one that is going to be serving HTML, and my port is not enabled right now. So I will leave it here. Now, what I need to do is very important right now. In this section, we have something that are the security, and this is the security group that has been created. Remember, um, here we have the inbound rules, and the inbound rules are just the SSH right now. I will create a new inbound rule. In this case, this inbound rule will be the port. Okay, let me cancel this. I will create a new inbound rule. And this inbound rule is gonna be for the port 4000. Okay, and the IP that is going to be connected, are going to be all the IPs. Now, let me save the rules here. Now, my security group of this instance has access to the port 22 and the port 4000. Now let's return to the instance. It is here. And let me connect to the instance. Now let's select here where it says connect. And you will see a Linux terminal here. You see it? Everybody?
Yeah.
Okay. So
Yeah.
this terminal is the one that is going to help us to communicate with the hardware of the computer. In this case, I need to install GitHub and Node.js so I can deploy my project. So let me show the steps to you of how to install GitHub and Node.js. So I have a tutorial here for you prepared. This is a, this is like a Word file here in Google Drive that I created for you. And because it is not Word, but it's online Word. We call this ones Google Words. Yeah. So first, we need to do some steps. And the first step is that we need to update the server. And the command necessary that you need to prompt inside of the terminal is going to be this one. This is going to update the server if there is any dependency that needs to be updated. So let's go to the terminal and put the terminal here. And in the terminal, I will paste the command sudo jump update -y. Sudo is it's going to give permission access to this command of the owner of the computer. This is an administrator command. So this is going to install, if something is not updated, this will update the computer right now. We need to do a waiting time. Now, as you see, I'm receiving this message that there are no dependencies, so everything is complete. Let's go with the next steps. Once we update the computer, we're going to install the first software. In this case, it's going to be Git. So again, we're going to use the sudo command so we can give administrator access to the terminal, and we're going to install Git. And as you see, -y because we're going to accept all the terminations here. Right now, in my computer or in my server, we are installing several dependencies. Okay, so I put the command clear, and this wiped the screen. Okay, now if you want to check if Git has been installed, what you need to do is git -v. And as you see, we have this Git version now in our server. Does this make sense, this part?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, now we have Git installed in the project. We're going to install a new software. In this case, the next software that we're going to install is Node.js. So the way to install Node.js, again, is this command sudo jump. Jump is for example, is the same command as, for example, npm. In this case, jump is like a library where you can select some packages that you're going to install in the server. So let's copy the command and paste it here in the terminal. I'm going to press enter. And this is going to install all the necessary packages so we can have Node.js in our computer. Well, in our server. Now it has been completed. I will clear the screen again. Now, if I want to check what's the version of my Node.js in my server, the command necessary is this one, node -v. This will bring the latest, the version that I have installed in the server. Does this make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great, excellent. Now, the next step, we're going to check if npm has been installed too. And we have this version. Now, we need to clone the repository of our project. Remember that this is the project that I had created yesterday, the hospital backend, right? So if you want to get the URL of the repository, it's here, and we are going to clone it. So right now we are in the root folder of the server. If I list something here, you will see that the folder is empty. everything here in this server right now, this is an empty server. So I will create right now a directory. This directory is going to be called projects. Now, if I list the content of the folder, right now it contains another subfolder that is called project. So I will enter to the projects folder using the command cd. Oh, sorry, it's projects. Now, as you see, I am inside of the folder projects. This is the root folder. Now I have been navigating to the projects folder. Does this make sense?
Yep.
Okay, now I will clear my terminal, and inside of this folder, I will clone the repository. So the command will be git clone, and I will paste the URL that I have here in the terminal. If you press enter now, this is going to clone the repository. So again, let me clear the screen and let me prompt the command ls. Now I have the backend repository inside of the folder of projects. So I have a next folder here. So let me enter to this folder, cd hospital backend. Does this make sense? I'm inside of the hospital backend right now.
Yes.
Now, if I
Yep.
list what I have inside of this folder, I have the DB folder, the index file, the package JSON, and the first step, once you download the repository, is that you always need to install all the dependencies. Remember that in this project, we installed three dependencies: Node, .env, Express, and PG. These are three libraries that we need to have in our project, so necessary if we want to deploy the server. So the way to install it is that you're going to npm install. This is going to install all the dependencies necessary. So if I list again the content of the folder, you will see that now there is a new folder that is called the node modules. You see it?
Yes.
So here we have all the dependencies. Now, once we install the dependencies, we cannot connect to the database because we don't have the .env file, this one, right? Here we have the secrets of the database. So how can we access, or how can we create this .env file? So there is something very similar to Node. Do you know what is, it's an editor, a text editor that is called Vim. So we're going to use the command Vim to open the text editor Vim inside of Linux. So first we need to put the name of the command. In this case, it's going to be Vim, and then the name of the file that is going to be created. In this case, the file is going to be the .env file. Once you enter to the Vim terminal, you're going to press the letter I in your keyboard, and this is going to enable the insertion mode. So now you can start modifying the .env file that was created. My recommendation is that you can copy paste the content of the .env that you have in your VS Code and paste it here. Does this make sense?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Let's see. No, I did something wrong. Yeah. Give me a second. I will remove the file.
Vim scares me.
That's it. So let me press escape. WQ. Let me remove the file. In this case, the way to remove a file is with the command rm.env. This will remove the file. Let me recreate the file again. Okay, now let me copy paste the content of it. And now once you copy the content, sorry guys, let me redo it. The things that I want to reduce the zoom. Okay, let me paste it. Okay, now it's better. Now, once you paste the content of of the .env file, you need to press the escape key in your keyboard. And now it's going to request a new command. Here you're going to type column WQ. So this is going to quit the Beam editor, and it's going to save the content of the .env file. So right now, let me clear again the terminal. And if you open the content of that .env with the cat, this command that is called cat is going to help you to read content here. So if you put cat.env, this is going to print the content of the .env file. And these are my secrets, okay? Let me clear again this, because I don't want to share with anybody this information. Now, let's see. Once I have done this, guys, what I need to do is that, okay, I think it's just enough so I can deploy the project. Let's see. Now to deploy the project, it's going to be node index minus, index.js. So as you see, I'm listening. My project is listening in the port 4000. So it's very important to remember the public IP. So let's copy the public IP and let's go to the, remember that yesterday we created some requests, right? So I have the get patients here. So I'm going to update the URL. In this case will be the public IP in the port 4000. And remember that the only route that we have right now is the patient route. So if I hit send here, I think it's patients. Okay. So as you see here, guys, I am receiving the information of the patients. You see it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I am trying to get the information from my server. So this is how we deploy backends online. Does this make sense?
Yes.
I know we need to practice with it. And the idea, guys, is that for the next
Yeah.
week, you can deploy your backend. The next week we will be working with this. But today, this is the lesson of how to do it. And I have these tutorials. I have the tutorial here of how to launch the EC2, how to install Node.js and GitHub here, and I will be saving the video
Cool.
in this drive too. Okay, so this information is available in the November cohort week 3. So let me finish with the presentation. No, this is the last. This is the last slide. So as a conclusion, we need to use EC2. So in purpose, okay, the purpose of using EC2 is because, for us as a web developer, our purpose of using EC2 is because we're going to be deploying backends. The front ends, they're commonly served on something that is called S3, the front ends, but the EC2 instances are the ones that are going to be serving JSON information. And the next week, guys, you're going to be learning. You're going to do this steps by steps, and I will be grading when you share me some screenshots of how you have done this process in my organization. Okay, so as a conclusion, we use EC2 for web development to deploy a backend. Does this make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great, guys. So there is any question about this lesson?
So we're gonna be doing this tomorrow?
No, the next week, because
Oh,
tomorrow is the last
okay.
day for the SQL Vault, and I want to respect the time for everybody.
Okay.
So for tomorrow, if you finish the SQL Vault, you can start doing this video. And there is going to be another video that it will be deploying tomorrow in the Moodle. It's another lesson that is about RDS, some other new concepts and some questions that you need to be solving there. So guys, if there are no more questions, you can continue working with the SQL Vault assignment. The next week, you will be launching your own instances.
Okay.
Okay, great. Let me know if you need any help with the SQL Vault assignment. I have noticed right now that there are only 4 databases deployed in my account. Raylon, Tammy, Josh, and Justine. I think that Frey and Jill, they haven't deployed their databases, right? It's very important that you can deploy your database. If not, you are not going to be able to accomplish this deployment of the backend later in the week number 2. I mean, in the week number 4. So try to create your database this weekend. This is just like an announcement, so you won't be um, affected with this activity later. Okay.
Okay.